Let's do some review of the trading year now with Johnson Chukwuda, CEO at Cowry Asset Management. Johnson is also a licensed trader. Good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Boston, and thank you for having me.
It's good to see you. Thank you so much. Let's begin to wind down the year in the manner of speaking. What key factors actually is propelling this stock market to be one of the best in the world in the year 2020?
Well, Boston, there are a number of factors. Let's start from the most critical ones. One, you did mention the fact that fixed income rates almost bottomed out to zero. And what happens when you have very low return on fixed income instruments is that investors will underweight their portfolios in fixed income and overweight them in equities. That's one of the reasons why we saw a lot of investment flow from fixed income space to the equity space. Because if you look at the returns on equity instruments and you look at dividend yield, many of the stocks on the quoted on the exchange that are paying dividend are giving you dividend yield of close to 10% at the prices they were at the beginning of this year. So anybody who has money to invest in will look at the option of investing in fixed income and get a 0.1% or equity instrument and hope that you get dividend yield of close to 10%. So that's no brainer. I mean, it's simple logic that people have to go to equities. Second factor is that a lot of foreign portfolio investors who sold their instruments wanted to exit the Nigerian market. They couldn't do that because they couldn't access FX. So they had to recycle their funds in either OMO or equity instruments. So you find out that those funds that would have left the system had to find any form of earning opportunity, and the opportunity available to them was either OMO or equity instrument. As it stands today, equity instrument yield is better than OMO instrument yield. So it makes sense for them to play more in equities. Those two major factors. And then the fact that a number of sectors in the economy were able to withstand the economic crisis occasioned by COVID. Take, for instance, the industrial sector. If you look at operator in the industrial sector, look at Dangote Cement, the Bua Cement, the Honeywell, and you look at their second quarter results, you realize that many of them made net profit margin or grew their net profit by close to 35% compared to what they did the previous year. So that encouraged investors to go into such stocks. Similarly with banks, a number of banks that have published their second quarter results also showed material improvement in their performance. These are factors that contributed to the market rallies we've seen this year, to the extent that at the end of this today, we have a market gain of year-to-date gain of about 41.17%.
So I'm going to ask this question. Folks say, look, the market is rallying, I mean the equities market, but does not reflect economic fundamentals. But now you're talking about big companies within the economies whose numbers are real and tangible. We can see it.
Yes, when people say that the rallies in the equities market do not reflect the reality of the economy, you have to put it in the proper context. If you look at the sector that are quoted, you will actually observe that the performance of their market prices are reflective of their performance of the underlying companies. I mentioned the issue of industrial goods. I mentioned the sector like banking industry. If you also look at consumer goods industry, you realize that many operators in that industry are struggling. The likes of Guinness, they are all struggling. And you see, year to date, that sector is in negative. Similarly, if you look at this oil and gas sector is also in the negative because operators in that sector are also struggling. So the prices of these sectors are reflective of the underlying assets. But if to put it in proper context, like I said, when people say that, they're actually referring to the fact that several sectors of the economy are not reflected in the market. And therefore, the market cannot be a barometer to measure the performance of the actual economy. Take for the agricultural sector, account about 33% of the GDP. Only 2 companies in the agricultural sector are quoted on the exchange. So what happens in the agricultural sector is not reflected in the market. The telecommunication sector has only... today you have MTN and Airtel quoted, but that sector accounts for more than 14% of the GDP. So you realize that it is not reflective of the actual structure of the economy. That's when people say that, look, this is not reflective of the economy. It's in the context that it doesn't show the proportion of the size of the economy.
So if I may ask, so it means therefore, or does it mean that this rally on the stock market, 41%, nearly 42% since January the 1st, is for real?
Yes, I would say it's for real. Remember that we're also coming from a low base. The market has suffered severe losses in a couple of years. In the past 5 years, if you look at the cumulative loss performance of the market, is in the negative. So we're also coming from a negative. So part of the recovery we've seen today are recoveries of previous years' losses. And because the underlying companies, many of them are in strong positions, we are not yet seeing instances where people are just buying any stock. People are still buying based on fundamentals. I do not think the major basis for investment in the market today is technical analysis, more of fundamental analysis, where people are looking at, okay, what is the performance of this company? What is the economy doing? What are these sectors doing? I think what we have seen today is a reflection of the years of market depression. So we are recovering part of that depression. And like I also said, the fact that opportunities available in the economy today are largely in terms of short-term earnings in the equity space.
But what sectors of the market are your top picks for the year and why?
Well, I did mention earlier the industrial goods sector. If you look at Ebua had a profit gain, increase in profit about 35%. Dangote had about, I think, about 40-something%, and I think Honeywell had about 62% or something like that. So that sector is proving to be quite strong. And because we're dealing with an economy that is in voracious need for infrastructure, the likelihood that they will get to a state of maturity is very slim. So that's the industrial goods sector presents good opportunities. The banking sector has proven to weather the economic crisis. Even if what's happening today, as technology is advancing with fintech, the banking industry is able to provide services at cheaper cost and also optimize their margins. So that sector, for me, is a good opportunity for investors.
What about healthcare?
Yes, the healthcare sector is, but remember that the operators in that sector are also largely very small. So I expect some level of enhancement of capacity. So otherwise, you will see a situation whereby instruments in that sector will be overpriced, and then you could have instances where a bubble could build, because the operators in that sector are largely very small.
Okay, Johnson Chukwu, stand by. We want to share your market playbook for the year 2021 after the break. Stand by, everyone. We'll be right back in 2. Let's continue that two-part conversation now with Johnson Chukwu, chartered trader and CEO at Cowry Asset Management. Johnson, the last time that the market had such a very major shutdown was during the June 12 crisis of 1994, 1995. But now we saw this year that the stock exchange, the FMDQ and the SEC were able to be very responsive in the manner in which they handled it. Hold your thought about that. Let's talk about that. These COVID-19 challenges and how the authorities handle that on the market street.
But a lot of things have changed between 1993 and 2020. There's been a lot of advancement in technology. Today, as we speak, I'm actually in my country home in Ugweke in Abia State, doing this program with you. So that's basically what happened. The stock exchange leveraged on technology. A lot of good thing that we already had deployed remote trading platforms. And virtually every operator in that market could trade remotely from their homes or from their offices. And we have also given investors the resources to actually trade with their handheld devices, their telephones, their iPads, their laptops. So there was no need for physical presence at the Florida Nigeria Stock Exchange. And that made up the difference, because despite the COVID-19 lockdown, the market opened all through the working days of that period. And we did not see any impact in terms of restriction of movement having on the movement on the trading on the floor of the exchange, because most of the trading took place remotely. The advancement in technology which the exchange had adopted much earlier before the COVID-19 came very handy.
What about the issue of supervision and all of that of you market operators or professional firms in terms of your interface between the officials of the stock exchange, with quoted companies, with your clientele and others? How did it all work out?
Well, in terms of supervision, starting from the Nigerian Stock Exchange supervision of the market, a lot of those supervision have also gone virtual. In the first place, companies are now required to render their returns electronically. You don't need to send in physical returns to the stock exchange. If you're a quoted company, you have to render your quarterly returns, half-yearly return, and annual returns. And if you fell to their sanction that we immediately imposed on you, then for the operators, the exchange was able to monitor trade activity. If you remember, there was a day a circuit breaker was activated. Despite the fact that we are all trading remotely, when the market rallied beyond the threshold, the circuit breaker had to be activated, and it wasn't that anybody was on the floor of the exchange doing that, because we could actually monitor activities on the exchange from anywhere in the world.
So how did you market operators cope so far? Why did you cope with the challenges of the year 2020?
Interestingly, the year 2020 has been relatively a good year for investment bankers, including asset managers, principally because while the economy was locked down, people had to move their money from operating activities, from businesses that were in operational in nature, to investment activities, where instead of keeping your money idle because your factories were locked, you use your working capital to go and play the market. So we saw a lot of funds coming to the market. I don't even mention the other factor that brought in funds into the market, the fact that you had a shift from a fixed income instrument to equity instrument, the fact that foreign portfolio investors still had their money trapped and they had to invest the money in local instruments. But beyond that, businesses that were not operating had to look for outlets to keep their monies working. And the capital market was the most viable outlet for them. So that the period of lockdown interestingly created a lot of opportunities for investment activities to take place.
So how would you, let's throw in the fixed income very quickly before we wrap up this conversation again, before you take your playbook for the year. What about the fixed income space? Do you think there's any positive development to this ground zero where we find yield levels right now?
You know, in one of your statements earlier, you said that the central bank said the research had indicated that investors want low interest rates.
Yes.
Of course, there are positive and negative implications of low interest rates. The positive implication is that you have depressed lending costs or lending rates, so that investors can actually borrow at much lower rate and hopefully go into broader activities. But it's also a disincentive to savings. And in fact, if you look at the fact that inflation is about 14.89%, and you can only get less than 1% on your fixed income instrument for the same tenor, for 1 year tenor, then it simply means that you shouldn't keep your money in investment. You rather have to do your purchases today, which could put pressure on the FX and also lead to further uptick in inflation. So the fact that we have to look at this, a delicate balancing act. It has its pros and cons, and the central bank must be able to determine whether the benefits actually outweigh the costs.
Okay, give me 1 minute or less than that, Johnson, what your playbook is for the new year 2021 for the market. Don't give me all the secrets. Just give me don't give out your trade secret.
But I think the market will remain relatively positive. It won't be as bullish as we have seen in 2020. I also want to expect that the central bank will have to allow for adjustment in interest rates, which could lead to funds moving from equity back to fixed income space.
Thank you so much, Johnson Chukwu. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you so much for your time today, as always.